Fund. We'll discuss this and more of today's top stories. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm guest host Katharine Shilcutt. We'll also talk with State Rep Suleman Lalani, who represents the Sugar Land area, about his recent op-ed in the Houston Chronicle on Islamophobia.
Plus, Christine Holland, the CEO of the area nonprofit Rebuilding Together Houston, will tell us all about their work providing free home repairs to those in need.
And as always, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Libby Casey. Senate Republicans will gather today on Capitol Hill for their weekly meeting. The lawmakers are expected to discuss their bill to fund immigration enforcement. As NPR's Barbara Sprunt reports, the package has been stalled.
Senators were initially caught by surprise by the White House's proposal to establish a nearly $2 billion anti-weaponization fund, something that drew bipartisan backlash. Lawmakers feared it could pay funds to people convicted of assaulting police officers during the attack on the Capitol building on January 6th. Senate Republicans have been pushing the administration to abandon the program. After the Justice Department said it will abide by a court order temporarily blocking the fund, Republicans may be back on track to passing a reconciliation package that would fund immigrations and customs enforcement and Border Patrol through 2029. Barbara Sprunt, NPR News, the Capitol.
In southern Lebanon, 2 children and their father are among the at least 10 people dead from Israeli strikes. President Trump intervened yesterday to stop Israel from attacking Beirut as Iran called off peace talks with the U.S. until the Israeli invasion of Lebanon ended. NPR's Jawad Rizkallah has more from Beirut.
The new deadly Israeli attacks on southern Lebanon threaten to derail Trump's efforts at the ceasefire deal with Iran. Iran has conditioned any ceasefire deal with the U.S. must include a truce in Lebanon. President Trump said he spoke to representatives of the Iran-backed Hezbollah who agreed to stop shooting at Israeli soldiers, and he said Israel had agreed to do the same. The Lebanese embassy in Washington further clarified Hezbollah had agreed to a U.S. proposal for the mutual cessation of attacks. And the embassy said under this agreement, Israel wouldn't strike the capital Beirut, although attacks continue elsewhere, and Hezbollah wouldn't strike Israel. Talks between Israeli and Lebanese officials are set to resume this week in Washington. Jawad Rizkallah, NPR News, Beirut.
President Trump has signed an AI executive order. The White House says it is aimed at advancing innovation and security. Meanwhile, artificial intelligence companies are moving towards public stock offerings. As NPR's Scott Horsley reports, that will give investors an opportunity to place bets on a booming part of the U.S. economy.
Anthropic has filed paperwork with the Securities and Exchange Commission in a preliminary step towards selling stock to the public. Anthropic makes the popular AI chatbot Claude. Private investors have already valued the company at nearly $1 trillion. Demand for artificial intelligence is boosting the fortunes of companies that provide the building blocks. Stocks of both Marvell Technologies and Generac are up. Marvell designs chips for data centers, while Generac provides backup power. Crude oil prices have been bouncing up and down, but the U.S. benchmark is back above $90 a barrel. AAA says retail gasoline prices dipped about 3 cents a gallon overnight. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
It's primary day in 6 election states. It's NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. Hurricane predictions say due to an El Nino current in the eastern Pacific, the number of potential hurricanes in the Atlantic is fewer than normal. However, ABC 13 Chief Meteorologist Travis Herzog says just one big storm can ruin everything.
The prime local example of that would be a very inactive hurricane season of 1983. But the A storm was named Alicia, became a Category 3 hurricane, slammed into Galveston and Houston. Less storms does not translate into no risk.
Herzog says, encouraged by the records, looking back as far as 1950, there has not been a single hurricane to make landfall in Texas when an El Nino current is present. Houston police are investigating after a woman was found dead alongside her boyfriend in an apartment complex yesterday near Katy Mills Mall. The incident caused an hours-long standoff, according to the Harris County Sheriff's Office. Dispatchers got a frantic 911 call from a man who claimed he accidentally shot his girlfriend. When deputies arrived, the man barricaded himself inside and eventually suffered an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. It's unclear at this time if the shot that killed the woman in the apartment was accidental or not. Taking a look at sports, the Astros are back on the field, taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates tonight in the first of a 3-game series at Daikin Park. Houston is currently 5 games out of first place. The Astros have won 7 of their last 10. Taking a check of your weather, we've got a 40% chance of showers and thunderstorms today. Otherwise, mostly sunny with a high near 91 and a feel-like temperature of 101. Tonight, a 50% chance of rain after 10 p.m., a low of 74. Right now, partly cloudy, 84 degrees on the UH campus, with light rain reported falling at Hobby Airport. Get more news and information. Go to HoustonPublicMedia.org. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher's dedicated team of specialists provide resources on investing, retirement income, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
From Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston.
And hello. Ernie Manous here with you on Tuesday, June 2nd. But I am not alone. No, sitting in the guest host chair today is Katharine Shilcutt is back with us. Welcome back.
Thanks, Ernie. It's always good to be here.
So when people are sitting there saying, tell me more about Katharine, fill them in a little bit more about yourself, and then we'll get into the show.
Okay. Well, I currently work at Rice University as the Director of Communications for Research, but I think most people in Houston know me from my tenure at the Houston Press as the food critic, and then I was the managing editor of Houstonian magazine, and I currently also post a lot of stuff on Instagram about Houston, about food in Houston, fun facts, urban density, public spaces. I like to talk all things Houston on Instagram.
Well, I think that a lot of people would know you as being the food lady.
Yes.
And then the social media stuff really has taken off for you. What would you say is the key to attracting, what do you call them? Viewers, followers?
Followers, viewers. Yeah, that's to an audience, I suppose.
My audience?
I think it's just being yourself. You know, people can tell when you're being disingenuous. People can tell when you're using AI to write captions. People are intelligent, and I think they like someone who speaks to them like a normal human being and tries to show them things about the city that they may not know. That's my whole goal on Instagram, is to showcase parts of the city and small businesses that might not be getting enough attention.
Oh, well, a noble mission, and also it seems something people are interested in because they come and they watch. There was someone I was watching the other day, and we're going to try and book him on the show coming up. He was talking about coffee in Houston.
Yeah.
He does he travels the world for the perfect cup of coffee, but what he said is Houston is so diverse and so rich in what we have in the in the restaurant scene.
Yes.
That you can find 8 cups of coffee here that are the best of each of these regions or countries of the world, and they're right here in Houston.
Absolutely.
And yet you don't know them.
You don't think about that. Yeah. You know, it made me so angry the other day. Someone told me they had just moved to Houston and they had already decided that Houston was not a coffee city. I know, thank you. And I said, well, where have you gone? And they had basically gone nowhere.
A lot of us have gone nowhere in our lives, but that's funny because, you know, I'm not a big, I'm a big coffee drinker. I'm not a big coffee connoisseur. I drink whatever, and I drink a lot of it.
All coffee is good coffee.
Right. But then I started watching these videos, and I started thinking, a nice cup of coffee. And then to find out, you can get coffee over sand from this region. You can get that coffee from Africa that, I was going to say, goes through monkeys. That's another story.
That's a totally...
But there's all these different coffee experiences that exist out there. And it makes me think on a bigger picture how much of Houston we don't experience, how often we sit in our own little bubbles and view our own little world. And so as much as you may gripe about social media, or people may think it's the damnation of our culture, it can do so much good in
Yeah.
opening up the world to us and showing us what we just miss.
Absolutely. And something I point out a lot on Instagram is the fact that when you're considering the whole Houston MSA, like the metropolitan statistical area, that's 11,000 square miles. Well, almost 11,000, which is the size of a country. It's the size of like
God, I never
Albania.
thought of it in that size.
Right?
Albania.
So it's really difficult to cover the entire country of Albania
Right.
on a regular basis.
Wow. Well, I hope all of you in that 11,000-mile radius are listening to our show today and inviting your friends to also tune in and join with us. We've got a very busy show today. We're going to be talking with State Representative Suleman Lalani, who's here. He represents the Sugar Land area. He wrote an op-ed that was fascinating about Islamophobia. We'll be talking about that in a little bit. We'll be talking about Rebuilding Together Houston, a great nonprofit that helps folks in need repair and build out. And it's such a needed thing in this area. We have so many damages we were talking about on the show yesterday. Wind and water storms. A lot of people need a lot of help out there. And it's good that that organization exists. We'll find out more about them in a little bit. Domestic violence. It's a big problem out there. We saw a story, speaking of restaurants. We'll get into that. There was a restaurateur and her husband, and that story is very bothersome. It happened a few weeks back, but it started us thinking about, you often think of domestic violence as in this little group that's outside of you, outside of us, unless you're experiencing it. And you start to realize there are no boundaries about who can find themselves in these situations.
Absolutely.
And then we'll wrap it all up with a brass band. How about that?
I like it. And on a high
Boomtown
note.
Brass is going to be here. So it's a full, busy show today. But as always, we like to begin with the news of the day. So, Katharine, take us in.
Of course. The Justice Department on Monday said it will abide by a federal court ruling that puts the Trump administration's controversial $1.776 billion anti-weaponization fund on hold while a legal challenge plays out in court. The Trump administration had said the fund would be available to those who alleged the federal government had been weaponized against them, a refrain popularized by some Trump supporters, particularly during the Biden administration. Democratic lawmakers called it a slush fund for Trump supporters, and even some Republican lawmakers were reluctant to support it. The fund was to be created as a part of a settlement between President Trump and his own Justice Department as a result of a $10 billion lawsuit Trump filed against the IRS for his previously leaked tax returns. The judge is weighing whether to make the pause more permanent and plans to hold a hearing on the issue on June 12th. What are your thoughts on this anti-weaponization fund being put on hold? We know you have them. We want to hear them. Call us or text us at 713-440-8870. Ernie, what do you
So
think?
many things in this bother me, but as I like to step back and take a global view on a lot of these issues, I think the first thing is, if in fact a government is being weaponized against certain individuals, there should be some recourse.
Sure.
I don't think that's the true nature of this situation. I think it sounds good in the concept of the ideas that all citizens should be protected and should never feel fearful of their government. When people have been found to have broken the law and to have done things that we as a culture say is wrong, and have been convicted of these crimes, and many of them even admitted to doing them, to then say that they were weaponized against and to get a settlement because maybe now they've been pardoned in a situation. I don't know. I just think that theory-wise, great idea that you should find solace in knowing your government stands up for you and doesn't attack you.
Of course, sure.
In practice, and especially in this form, no.
And I think, the connection between the lawsuit and the settlement is also so tenuous as well. And the idea that, there are no standards for who gets paid. Those are also very vague.
It's a group of Trump selected individuals would then decide who are the people that get the settlements and the amounts. And it's like, okay, so there's no structure to it.
Right.
It's whoever Trump wants to put on this, which then we would assume is doing Trump's bidding. No place in me thinks he would pick a non-biased group of folks to sit on this. Just the whole thing. And it's our money.
Yes.
It's our tax money.
Yes.
That's the part people keep overlooking. It's every time we have to pay a tax, and every time we think the economy is in such bad shape, and we're giving money over to the government to help, so that money could go in the hands of these people, and oftentimes they are not people that need the financial support. You can see some reports of those that are applying are doing quite well on their own and making a lot of money. It's very disturbing. What do you think? 713-440-8870. Am I missing something here in my understanding of it? Have you heard something or a news report that makes you say, well, wait a minute, this really is valid and we need this money to go? I mean, even as in the news right before us, Republican lawmakers are gathering trying to get the Trump administration to back off this one. It is not a winning issue.
I mean, talk about an issue that has created bipartisan discomfort.
Yes.
Like no one on either side is comfortable with this. And I think that says a lot.
So maybe in the end, Trump becomes a unifier.
There we go.
That's how he could do it. What do you think? We're following along, looking, trying to see what comments you're sharing with us. Remember, over on YouTube, there's always a very active chat group going on. We call them our HuTubers, and they watch the show. You can find us on the Houston Public Media channel on YouTube, or just look for Hello Houston, or just go to houstonpublicmedia.org and you can find it. Okay, you ready for another story?
I'm ready.
All right. It is Pride Month. So, of course, Ken Paxton is locked and loaded. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is suing the city of Denton over plans for gender-neutral changing rooms at a Pride swim event held at a public pool. Paxton argues that the proposal would violate Texas's new law restricting access to certain public changing facilities based on sex assigned at birth. But organizers say the lawsuit is unnecessary because they had already removed references to gender-neutral changing rooms before the case was filed. The groups behind the event call the lawsuit a waste of taxpayer money, while Paxton's office says it's enforcing state law. What are your thoughts on this lawsuit? Is it upholding a Women's Privacy Act or a waste of time and money? 713-440-8870. Call or text. Katharine.
You know what I miss?
What do you miss?
I miss a time when unisex bathrooms just existed and nobody cared, and it wasn't a big deal.
I miss a time when a lot of things existed and nobody cared.
Right.
Life just went on. You know, it wasn't an issue. I think what's again, here we go. What bothers something to me is that the problem was already, if there was even a problem, the situation, let's put it that one, had already been explored and a solution was there. I'm tired of things being done just for political traction.
And that's exactly what this is.
You know, look at me. I'm Ken Paxton. Look how I'm fighting for your rights to protect women in restrooms at a Pride event when they'd already addressed the problem.
And you think of all the things that are happening in the state of Texas that the Attorney General's office could address. We are a huge human trafficking corridor. There is corruption going on. There is fraud going on. There are all kinds of things that Paxton's office could legitimately be addressing that affect all Texans. This does not.
Right, but you know what? And it's the problem with our whole political system. Now I'm going to take this thing, just go huge.
Take it. Let's do it.
Is that the problem is that you have to rally your troops to come out and vote for you.
Yeah.
And you have to find these issues that activate them to care. And it started, you saw a lot of this starting way back in the 80s when it started being about gay rights and gay marriage and all of that. And it was like, they didn't care, but they knew that it activated a group of voters. And we continue to see that every election cycle.
Yep.
And right now it seems like we're constantly in an election cycle.
Yes.
So we've seen Ken Paxton come out with a slew of these lawsuits in the last few months. He was in a heated primary, which now he has won. So now we're going to see it up until the election in November. And then, as always happens, they all quiet down a bit and go back to their daily jobs. And then when the next election, all of a sudden, these are the hottest issues in the world that they have to sacrifice their lives for. Enough. We're tired, I think, as an electorate.
It's exhausting.
You know, take care of the problems we have in the state. Don't create new ones that don't really exist.
It's demoralizing.
Now, if I'm off base and you think, no, what he's doing needs to happen and that there is a problem here, and Ernie, you're missing it, trust me, I miss a lot. So give me a call. Let us know. Text us 713-440-8870. Let's go over to the phones. Jennifer from Clear Lake is on the line. Jennifer, what's on your mind? Jennifer, are you there for us? Jennifer, I don't hear you right now, but we'll come back to you. If you're still there, we're going to move on. We're going to go back to the medical center question, and let's go to Zach.
There are a whole litany of other problems that we have, especially, you know, with inflation and everything, but I don't really understand it, and I don't really see who benefits from it at the end of the day.
Yeah. Are you in agreement with me that it's all just political theater? Zach, still there? Boy, people are coming and going quickly today.
Zach said his
show.
piece.
He said his piece and he was done. And I would assume that, yes, he agrees that it is political theater from what he said. I'm going to check one more time for Jennifer before we move on. Jennifer, are you with us? Nope, we're going to move on from Jennifer then. Okay, so continue to share your thoughts, questions, and concerns, but we've got another story to share with you. Remember, you can always comment or get involved at 713-440-8870. Take it away, Katharine.
Southern Star Brewing Company plans to close in late June, ending a nearly 20-year run for the Houston area business and marking the latest casualty in a craft beer industry that has been struggling. The Conroe Brewery, which bills itself as the first in Texas to distribute craft beer in aluminum cans, announced in a social media post this week that it will close on June 28th. Customers were asked to share their thoughts about Southern Star as well as their favorite memories from its tap room at 3525 North Fraser Street, where food and drinks are served and there is an outdoor beer garden with a stage for live music. From the bottom of our hearts and everyone that has ever been involved with this brewery, past and present, thank you for every pint, every visit, and every memory, the brewery wrote on Facebook. Southern Star, known for its signature Bombshell Blonde Ale, as well as the Buried Hatchet Stout, is the latest local brewery to wind down operations. True Anomaly Brewing Company, an award-winning business in Houston's East Downtown neighborhood, closed at the end of April. What are your thoughts? Do you support local breweries? What do you think is causing this downturn? Call us or text us at 713-440-8870.
From chatting with you a little bit before this, I would think that your point of view on this would be that we just have so many of them. There's only so much marketplace.
That's true. And we've been in a bubble for a while. And I think, also generationally, you're seeing younger folks are not drinking the same way that my generation was. I'm Gen X millennial on the cusp, and we supported craft breweries, but that was our 20s and 30s. Folks like me, we have families, we have kids, there's other things going on, and you're not necessarily seeing that replacement of younger folks going into the breweries in the same way.
Yeah. And I don't mean to make the comparison between drinking and smoking, but you see the same thing in smoking, or you did, but now you're seeing a resurgence in young people smoking again.
Yes. They call them analog cigarettes, which cracks me up, as opposed to vapes.
Analog cigarettes. I love that. But I think that maybe, it's sad to see these breweries closing because there may be a next wave coming up of people who get into it. And I think when you think about craft breweries, it's less about drinking to drink and more about the experience of tasting something unique and craftsman.
Absolutely. And to be there on site where it actually gets made. Yeah. That's a true experience that you're not able to have otherwise. I really liked Southern Star. Buried Hatchet Stout is a fantastic beer. It makes me sad. I'm very sad for them. Yeah.
Well, see, and I don't drink.
Yeah.
I try. I've tried.
This is on you, Ernie.
This is not me. Yeah, I've tried to enjoy a beer or a stout or a lager, and it's just like I'm happy for you. That's how I feel about it. Well, anyway, what do you think? Are you sad to see these breweries going? You mentioned Bombshell Blonde. I just want to mention that yesterday was Marilyn Monroe's 100th birthday, and something fascinating happened. We'll tell you about that in the next hour. But right now, there is more to do on Hello Houston. State Senator Suleman Lalani will be joining us in just a minute, and we hope you'll stay with us. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
Meet Tio Choco. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. This is his story. Visit ridemetro.org/Choco to find out where is Choco.
Houston Public Media. You'll get access to PBS Passport that lets you watch your favorite programs anytime you want. Support the programs you love and enjoy them on your own schedule with PBS Passport. Make your gift now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
I'm Scott Tong. As hurricane season starts, FEMA, the department tasked with disaster management, faces depleted funds and workers. We'll talk to the acting FEMA head and to the emergency management director of North Carolina on its recovery from a devastating storm last year. Next time, Here and Now.
You can hear it today starting at 1 o'clock. HPM Plus brings you the latest news and information from around the world and across the street. Trusted journalists keeping you connected by keeping you informed. Search HPM Plus on your smart and connected TVs and stay informed.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8, digging deeper into the archives, Women of World War II uncovers more never-before-seen stories of the greatest secret weapon of World War II, women. Tonight at 7 on TV8.
Support comes from Metro. World Cup planning includes transit improvements intended to serve Houston after the final match. Metro provides bus, rail, and paratransit service and continues mobility enhancements across the region. More at ridemetro.org/Metro Now.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and guest host Katharine Shilcutt.
Our first guest today is State Representative Dr. Suleman Lalani, who represents House District 76 in Fort Bend County. Dr. Lalani recently wrote an opinion piece for the Houston Chronicle about what he describes as growing Islamophobia among politicians and its impact on communities in Texas and across the country. He's here now to join us to discuss the op-ed. Dr. Lalani, welcome to Hello Houston.
Well, thank you, Ernie, and thank you, Katharine, for inviting me and giving me this opportunity.
Absolutely. I want to remind you, if you want to join the conversation, call or text 713-440-8870. Before we get into all of this, I'm just curious, we were talking a little bit ago about what's going on with the Attorney General and all of that, and I'm just curious, how hard is it to do the work of lawmakers in election cycles when everyone is going off on what we feel here are tangents to motivate the electorate as opposed to dealing with the issues at hand? Are we off base in assuming that, or is that what you see too?
It is. It is not just disturbing, it's frustrating, when you're working on issues that actually affects and will help Texans, like, look for healthcare access, affordability, look at the education, look at the safety, security, look at the immigration there, we're talking on, look at the border security. When all those things fail and they don't have answers, they're looking for a scapegoat. And they're looking for the weakest communities out there who they can create in some sound bites and distract people, because they want the Texans not to ask them the real questions, right? Because they don't have answers. Mm-hmm. So this is all distraction they're creating.
Yeah. Now, to come back to what we have you here for today, you wrote this op-ed. What led you to feel like this is a point where you need to have your voice heard on this issue and what we need to know?
Again, the same point. We live in times which are difficult, and the misinformation and disinformation that creates fear. Then fear creates anger, anger creates hate, and different people react to hate differently, especially the young kids. And then, even there were legislators who would side with me in a coffee room on a sideline, and they would say, Dr. Lalani, no harm done, this is just politics, no hard feelings. So I thought that I should write something to tell them that the words have actions, and this is getting out of the box.
That was something that really struck me in your op-ed. One of the lines you wrote, when I confront them about their rhetoric, they tell me in private it's just politics, no harm meant. But the harm is real.
It is real.
How does that feel, hearing, it's just saying it in public? I don't feel that way in private.
It is, it's from anger, sadness, anxiety, it is now gone and crossed the line that is taking lives of people.
Yeah.
And that is what is disturbing is, people are reacting differently. They're making you tell lies enough time that it becomes truth. Mm-hmm. Make sure you weaponize the fear. Make sure that you threaten the weakest part. So, people are threatened of somebody who's praying differently. Oh, who my neighbor is. I mean, there's always an antenna that goes up. Somebody, people finding all these things are happening. So not only the community is frustrated, sad, upset, but now it's getting real where people are getting killed.
Absolutely.
Does it surprise you or catch you off guard when you hear all of the anti-rhetoric happening in the same community where they're also opening the Ismaili Center, where we see like these two different things happening at once, and it's like embrace of culture and turn against culture?
I think there's always good people around, and then they would like to do that, and that happens in all the communities. And then when we look into and generally I say that people who don't know about their own faith are the one who are pointing on people of other faith, because if you look at it, if you read whatever faith you belong to, I've been taught that God is omnipresent. And if I can, and has everyone has that God in them, right? So if we can see whatever I believe that my God is in you, how can I point finger and do wrong to you? So, there are people who wants to bring cultures together, understanding together. That happens. But there on the other side, there are far and few people, but they are very loudmouth, and they would want to create distraction. So my message out to the good people is the bad things are happening because good people are choosing to stay quiet. This is not the time to stay quiet. You get engaged, get into the dialogue, explain to the people. And, you don't have to be ugly with anybody or rowdy with anybody, but engage. And then when you see something wrong, speak.
So speaking of bringing folks together, back in March, you created the Texas Interfaith Legislators Caucus to push back against Islamophobia and defend religious freedom. Can you tell us more about that and how that's gone so far?
Yes. So, again, this was a moment to educate our colleagues who were saying just politics, no harm meant. Yeah. Is to give them a platform, like let's engage in a dialogue. Let's we can talk about social issues from our own faith views. We can talk about, criminal justice. We can talk about immigration. We can talk about education. What do you think, what your faith wants you to do? And I can talk with them. Let's bring on those issues. We can dialogue to give them the platform. So it was not a reaction to our some colleagues who opened up the anti-Sharia caucus. This was more of an education platform to do that. And I'm happy to announce that we are going to have a legislators and faith leaders panel very soon this month in Houston, in fact, at Rothko Chapel.
Oh, fantastic.
So I would like to invite all your listeners who are listening here to join us and look at other flyers and more information.
And what a great location for something like that.
Yeah. Taking back a little bit to moments, rhetoric, things that happened that led you to do this particular op-ed. Moments where you said, okay, this is out of hand. We need to address this now.
So it is actually it's two ways. One is, what was disturbing to me when one of the organizations did the polls, and anti-Muslim rhetoric is polling the highest to excite people to come to the votes. And that was very unfortunate for me to see that. There's not only the elected leaders from the opposite party are doing that to activate their base, but actually base is asking for that. And that was disturbing to me. So that you created a monster, now you have to feed them. Mm-hmm. And then I also wanted to write to also create awareness in the community. Like, look, what are you doing? Learn to ask right questions. Learn to be aligned with people. There are, our governor takes 7-figure donations from our own community people and flipped around and then talk bad about it. And then same thing happening to any other minority that you do. So I also wanted to open eyes to our own community, like look for who is against you, and not only just outsiders, but look from inside. Because there's also dark money that has come into our Muslim community, and they're dividing our own community itself. So we need to be engaged and may become more politically astute.
Look for the hypocrisy, right?
Yes, and learn to ask right questions. Unfortunately, our South Asian communities were not very much politically active historically. So there are people who would come to their faith places and take pictures, shake hands, and then take the donation check in their pocket and walk away, knowingly that these people would not know what is the right questions to ask. So that's what is another part that I want to educate the community is look at the hypocrisy, learn the right question, and ask the right question to the right people. Make them accountable. Make them accountable. That's the important question.
This might not be the right question, but help me through it, too. You mentioned Sharia law, and there's a lot of misunderstanding maybe. What should we know about this concept, how it's enacted in our own communities, what is to be fearful of and what isn't to be?
I think there's nothing to be fearful of about. I mean, the various faith practices have different traditions. It is in Christianity, it is in Judaism, it is in Islam. It is the way of practicing your faith. Your daily ethics, that your actions, that is to be conducted through your morals. That's about it. There's nothing else that is competing. Texas and America has its own constitution, so there is a legal system. There's nobody's coming out. And the funny part that kind of, it's not funny, but it's sad enough that what percentage of Muslims are out here in USA? Now you're fighting for somebody who's even less than 1%. And you have no clue what the other 99, or you don't want to help other 99% and look for the actual issues that are happening. Look at us. I mean, we are here in Houston, right? World's biggest medical center is here. Mm-hmm. We have the technology, we have the research, we have the know-how, but our own people cannot cross the street to get the help done. And that's where we see all the complications that are happening, all those preventable problems that becomes, that $200 that somebody can take medications while they come and see a primary care, would not take it, will have complications, and they will end up in ICU. And now that $200, we are spending $200,000, and half of them may not even make up alive out of the hospital, or other half will go to nursing home. Who's paying for it? So we are so much penny wise, pound foolish kind of things in healthcare, and all these issues that are happening. So we need to work on actual real issues.
Absolutely.
So the path to fixing this, the path to healing, I always argue it's starting the conversation. People have to be talking about it. What do you recommend to start getting this back to a centrist point of view on all of this?
I think we need to all get more and more engaged. I tell my community also that we need to make sure that we vote our voice, which is important. Because look at the way elections are going. 10-15% of the people are deciding what will happen. So other 85% is sleeping, and then either what they're doing is sofa politics or they're just griping. So I am educating people that come out and vote. Even if we change that number by 5%, I think you will see more and more moderate people coming into the play. And then learn about the offices and what their responsibility and what their authorities is to make them accountable and ask the right questions. So they should be aware that, I will be asked. And then learn about what the systems is going. So I tell my people, like, when I file a bill, you like it, call your legislator and say, hey, I want you to support Dr. Lalani's bill because I believe that, right? So create that consensus among people and kind of work on.
Yeah. Something else you mentioned in the op-ed that I thought was interesting, you said, gone are the days when Muslims felt welcome in the Republican Party of Texas. Despite many in our community sharing the socially and fiscally conservative principles that defined pre-MAGA Republicans, we are now treated as enemies of the state and have become targets for violence and hate. Why do you think anti-Muslim rhetoric resonates in Texas Republican primaries specifically?
I think it's just the fear that excites people. And it kind of, if you were running the segment earlier about food, and people do good, unfortunately, it's not enough for other people to get excited. Yeah. So fear plays, and then when it's very difficult to unite people, but it's very easy to divide people. And then when the shallow leaders are out there who don't have anything to show, anything to progress, they will get into fear and then make sure that they weaponize it. So that's why I think it is running out in there. If they have good things to show me where the healthcare is, show me where the education is, and then we can work out, right? Mm-hmm. Other part which we see it, which I was thinking, well, this is just the results that we're seeing. This kind of discrimination happening at a very systemic level. So look at the education. If our curriculum is becoming biased, what our next generation is going to be taught? Look at the access to care. Look at the fear that we have created so much. This minority people, you think they will be able to get the jobs that they would want to, they would qualify? People will be asking 3 times, right? And then unemployment and underemployment that will happen. How is it going to affect the economy? All of that part. When the children goes to school, children are not born with innate emotion of fear, right? They learn from adults. And they see that, and so the Muslim children sometimes feel inferior. So they feel outsiders. The non-Muslim children think threatened that I don't know who this is. So that's how things that's created. Look at all the attacks that have happened. All the youth.
Yeah.
So young minds process hate differently, and we need to make sure that we educate, we engage, and come back to what is important.
It's interesting you bring that up because it also plays into education. You first say make sure people get out and vote. The other thing is we need a more robust, complete education. But in this state alone, we're already challenging that and what's taught in schools. From where you sit also in the state legislature, what can we be doing to not be moving back away from an expression of ideas in a place where learning is a fruitful ground of developing fresh concepts and ideas and going back to an old rhetoric?
I think we need more people, more diversity in the legislature, where people come from different faith, they come from different educational background, they come from different professions. So we can look at the problem from various different angles and we can be more smarter. We need people who are more ethical, who actually have a servant heart, not come to be elected to sit on and warm that seat. Mm-hmm. So that when that happens, then you can discuss actual issues and you find the solutions. And we have the money. Don't take me right. There are a lot of legislatures that were started with negative. We started with positive funding in our Texas legislature. And we have billions of dollars sitting to us. We can do healthcare, we can do education, we can do a lot of other things. We are not choosing to do that. Yeah. That's our problem. When last segment you were running about Kerrville, and it just reminds me when I was listening on the radio, the flooding that happened. Are we prepared? Are we doing safety? Are we doing more preparedness? Are we doing more prevention? We, as a Democrats, were asking Governor the special session should be formed for that. And we are working, but instead they wanted to do what? Special session for redistricting. And then the governor wanted to give President Trump on a platter the 5 seats that he wanted. So we had no choice but to deny the quorum, right? So we are fighting at various levels. And that's what I think people need to understand and know what is going on. Ask right questions and make your elected accountable. And then tell them, I am having problem. Inflation. I can't afford to put bread and eggs. I cannot fill my car. That's my problem. Look at it. Resolve that issue. You saying you have all this money sitting. Education. I think we are creating paper degrees and not the creative minds who lead us for tomorrow.
We have probably the arguably best medical center on the globe right here in our own community, yet the cost of medical care is so outrageous. Are there things we should be doing on the state level to help balance that so those in need are getting the care they need without breaking the bank or having to forfeit health care?
Absolutely. Absolutely, we should do that, and that was one of my reasons to actually cross from medical practice to legislation. And that's what I am focusing on, how we can improve the access to care and affordability. So I'm very glad this session, actually, we have an interim committee which is looking into healthcare affordability and access, and we're looking into some things. And we have been talking to a lot of experts, and it's no-brainer. Healthcare is the only industry which the product declines every year, yet the pricing goes up because there's no competition, there's no transparency. And then this has become one of those corporate things like how can I squeeze and make more money? I think there are some things where, or maybe rightly put would be, there is a legal and ethical lines. We have crossed the ethical lines to look into legal loopholes. And that's what the problem is. And I think we can do much better.
We had a comment come in that we're the capital of the world for health care, but if you're in a car accident without health care insurance, you are doomed to half-blank clinics.
Yes, and the number one cause of bankruptcy is medical catastrophe. Mm-hmm. And then so everybody is just one accident away, unfortunately. So we need to make sure that we create that safety net, we create that affordability and access to care. And that would help. Healthier people, stronger Texas, more economy, better people thinking, working. We don't even think of how many people takes day off because they're sick and they cannot come to work. And their sickness, they could be resolved in 4 days or not complicated, come back to work. Then somebody who just sit and then get complicated and doesn't come. And actually some of them will never come. So how much we are losing the revenue on the other side.
The ripple effects.
The ripple effect of economy. I tell people in my first session, there was an argument that, we don't have healthcare crisis. People who don't have it are lazy people. They're self-inflicted on them. And when I tell them, look, I have a teacher who has worked for 40 years and now cannot afford her medication. It's not that she was lazy.
Right.
Look at in your people. In my practice, I've seen diabetics for 40 years and having a normal life. And then you have seen diabetics for 2 years and having amputation, going to the kidney failure dialysis. What's the main difference? Access to care. And if they have not had preventive care done, they have not access to care, this complication is happening. Would you give that medicines for a diabetic, or would you take care of dialysis for life? And then that's what we want to create. So this session, I'm glad that we passed that hump that there is a problem. And now I'm fighting on how to find a solution. Mm-hmm. So I think we're going to make some progress.
We've kind of wandered off what we initially had asked you to come on and chat with. And so in the last moments that we have you, go back to the op-ed and any closing thoughts you want the listeners to keep in mind as they think about this issue.
Yes, I would tell everybody that, follow the facts and don't get played by the fear. Do your own research and equip yourself with knowledge and not the noise. And then in this time, You know, if one community is separated because the way they look or pray, you will be next. So don't feel that, you know, so make sure that you stand with your Muslim friends and in this time of need to show that you're not alone. And to my Muslim friends is to don't let anybody tell you that you don't belong here. This is your place. And get engaged and be very proud of what you do, because we are the fabric of America. We are the fabric of Texas. You will find, go to the medical center, you will find how many Muslim doctors. Go to the school or university, you'll find how many are the educators who are Muslims. Look at, you know, various businesses we are running. I mean, how many employment opportunities you are creating, and you know how much tax you are paying. So, you know, practice your ethics, practice your moral, and be proud of practice your faith. You are free. Everybody's free to practice their faith. So don't let anybody tell you you don't belong here. And to my other friends, the community at large, come together in this time of need, because we rise by elevating others. And that's what, you know, we make progress when we are united.
State Representative Dr. Suleman Lalani represents House District 76 in Fort Bend County. Dr. Lalani, thank you so much for coming in. And come back and join us again.
I will do it in a heartbeat. And, you know, I was just telling your producer, if any other topics you like, I'm in health. I'm passionate about, I can talk.
All right, we will bring you back. And remember, coming up on the show, we've got a lot more today. Next, we're going to talk Rebuild Together Houston as Hello Houston continues. This is News 88.7.
Meet Damola, songwriter, world-class violinist, and award-winning multi-genre artist. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. Visit ridemetro.org/Damola to learn more about his ride.
Oppressive rule and further corruption, and how modern Iranians live today during war. That's next time on Think.
You can hear Think. It's coming up tonight at 11 o'clock.
On the next Fresh Air, novelist Maggie O'Farrell. She wrote the book Hamnet and co-wrote the screenplay for the film adaptation. She has a new book called Land, about a father and son mapping 19th century Ireland after the devastation of the Great Famine. Join us.
Fresh Air. It's on tonight at 8 on News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Texas Mutual Insurance Company, a workers' compensation provider that's been caring for hardworking Texans for over 30 years. More at texasmutual.com/expert partner.
Houston Public Media is a service of the University of Houston and is supported with your gifts to the Houston Public Media Foundation. More information available online at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Theater Under the Stars, with a 2026-27 season of Broadway musicals at the Hobby Center. Subscription packages for 3 or more shows are available. Information at tuts.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and guest host Katharine Shilcutt.
Rebuilding Together Houston is an area nonprofit organization that provides free home repair to homeowners in need across Houston and surrounding areas. Founded in 1982, the organization helps restore homes in danger of collapse, ensuring that families are safe from potential health hazards, including leaking roofs, collapsing floors, and lack of air conditioning, which, as many Houstonians know, is very important as we prepare to endure the brutal heat of the summer months. To tell us more about their work, we're joined by Rebuilding Together Houston CEO Christine Holland. Christine, welcome to Hello Houston.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with y'all today.
And I'm going to make a public apology. I keep calling it Rebuild Together Houston. It is Rebuilding Together Houston. Important.
The active tense.
The active, because that's what you folks do. It's action.
It is indeed.
So talk a little bit about how much work you're doing, how much need is out there in this community.
Well,
If you can even grasp it.
We estimate. There's not a lot of data about housing in Houston. The Kinder Institute has been trying to define things, and they've been working on it since about 2021. And the way we estimate it has something to do with their survey. So we took the total number of low-income homeowners in Harris County, and we multiplied it times a number the Kinder Institute came up with, which was originally 44%. And we determined that there are probably over 100,000 low-income homeowner families living in what we call hazardous housing, what you just described. Those are the conditions that are happening inside their homes. And because they're low income, they don't have any ability to correct these things. Another interesting thing is this number was developed before Hurricane Beryl and the derecho. So it's only gotten more so in the last years.
What are the conditions that qualify someone to need work done in their home? I mean, we all think of home improvements, getting things done, but we're talking about dire situations.
We call them critical repairs, and the most important thing is a roof. So about 42% of the homes that we work on require a new roof. You can hardly ever repair a roof on one of these houses because the houses themselves might be 70, 80, 90 years old.
Yeah.
And so you can't patch it. You just have to take it down and start over. So that's the number one most important thing. The structure itself has to be stabilized. Can't put a roof on a house that's leaning. Electrical system problems, definitely plumbing problems, lots of plumbing problems. Also, accessibility modifications. The vast majority of people we serve, 78%, are older adults who own these homes. And if they're not disabled, they might still have other challenges with mobility. So there's a lot we can do there, like take bathtubs out, turn them into showers, build ramps and stairs and handrails to get in and out of the house. A lot of modifications along those lines.
I mean, we have such a significant population for whom even something relatively small, like having to get a new tire put on, is an expense, let alone a whole new roof. Like, these are things that are so inaccessible for a large number of people. And with the AC in particular, can you talk about what a serious health issue that can pose to not have AC in the summer?
Oh, absolutely. Just in our normal work, about a third of the houses we see are not able to control the temperature inside the house. The program we're talking about today only solves for that problem. But because that's the problem we're solving, we're able to extend it everywhere in Harris County. Not everyone in Harris County can apply for full home repair. If they did, we'd have a waiting list that was 25 years long.
Oh, gosh.
But every year at this time, and we've been doing it since 2019, so we've done hundreds and hundreds of these projects over the years. Every year around this time, we really start to worry about the population that we serve, primarily elderly. And think about, for example, imagine your grandmother cannot control the temperature inside her house. She's going to be very, very, very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
There's a great risk to health of stroke, kidney failure. I mean, all sorts of things that can happen to the body, even death.
Yes.
And a lot of these folks that we serve, we have cooling centers all over the city, and that's great. But if you're a person who is challenged with mobility, you're not going to go to a cooling center all day and then come home to a sweltering house at night. It's not practical. Cooling centers are great, but they don't solve for this problem. What these families and individuals need is to be safe inside their own home.
Yeah.
And cooling centers don't solve for the fact that mold can grow when you don't have air conditioning, that all kinds of other things can happen in the house as well.
There are all kinds of other things, which we're not really able to get into in this program.
Yeah. I lived in Chicago before I moved down here, and I was there that last year when they had that horrible heat wave, and
no one was prepared.
Over 500 people died
because
they didn't have AC, and the heat was there and the power went out.
Yeah.
And you don't think of that in terms. You think, oh, it's hot, well. But no, it's not just about being uncomfortable. It does have real-world consequences.
It has very real consequences. So what we're doing is we are offering to low-income homeowners anywhere in Harris County, if they want to apply, we would love to come and install window AC heater units for them. We are planning to do at least 50. We may do more. In addition to wanting to help people, we want to let your listeners know if they're able to help. It costs about $1,000 to help one of these families out. And that doesn't just take care of them in the summer. It doubles as a heater in the winter. So it is year-round temperature control. It is very energy efficient. And our homeowners love it. It even comes with a little remote. I mean,
it's funny when you say that and people think, oh, $1,000. But the cost, if it doesn't go in, of the medical care, of the emergency response, of the hospitalization, all that, how much more it is. Just fix the problem at the front end, and we don't have all these complicated problems down the road.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. One of our great sponsors of this program is Methodist Hospital, who sponsors us actually on all of our accessibility modifications. And their goal is to keep people out of the emergency room.
Right.
So they have recognized it, and we see it. We see it every day. One of the things our national organization surveys for is, did you fall before, and have you fallen since we've come and done full repair for you?
Yeah.
So this heat program is really great. I mean, now you can imagine your grandma. She's comfortable in her house. She can have friends over. She can have family over. She can watch the grandkids during summer vacation. It just changes the whole landscape, and it's a small thing.
Yeah.
But it means so much to people and to their comfort.
I'm sure there are people who want to know, how do I apply? Who qualifies to come to you folks?
Sure. So you can apply on our website, rebuildinghouston.org. And also, we have humans to answer the phone, which a lot of elderly folks in particular, I think, appreciate. I don't like automated phone systems.
Yes.
So we have a main number. It is 713-659-2511. And during normal business hours, you will get a very nice person who will help you understand how to qualify. Basically, people have to own their home, live in their home, only own one home, and be low income. And this application is a little simpler than our full-blown application because we want to make this as easy for as many people as possible.
What qualifies low income? What's the level? Do you know offhand?
Well, AMI is a very common measure. So folks that are under 50% AMI, which I believe is under $45,000 for a family of four. But honestly, it's calculated by the number. It's complicated.
I promise you there'd be no math today, so I'm sorry for that one.
No, but Ernie, the easiest way to find out if you qualify is just call and ask our staff. They'll walk you through.
We did have a question that came in online. Do y'all partner with Meals on Wheels or other nonprofits that have people that go to their homes and check on them?
We have partnered with a lot of other organizations. Meals on Wheels and our organization refer folks back and forth to each other. But people qualify for programs individually. There are many people who get Meals on Wheels who might be renters or who might not exactly fit what our client profile is. But yes, we all need to work together, and not having a safe home and food insecurity are probably the two most serious issues in our region, and the two that affect the most people.
Well, we thank you because not just working together, you're rebuilding together. So
Yes,
thank
sir.
you very much for coming in today.
No, it's our great pleasure, and let's all stay cool together.
Let's do that. Christine Holland is the CEO of Rebuilding Together Houston. And thank you again for coming in. Still to come on today's show, we're back at the top of the next hour. We're going to be talking headlines and then also a little more serious domestic violence awareness and prevention coming up in the next hour. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from Houston Parks Board. Explore Houston's new 100-acre nature-based park. Hill at Sims, featuring nearly 5 miles of trails and scenic hilltop views. Learn more at HoustonParksBoard.org.
We have a chance of afternoon showers, maybe a thunderstorm this afternoon. 50% chance of rain, the high near 90, low tonight 75. Currently 87, and this is your NPR station, KUHF Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, Texas Children's Hospital must create the nation's first ever detransition clinic as part of a $10 million settlement with the state. We'll discuss this deal and more of today's top stories. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm guest host Katharine Shilcutt. We'll also talk with Barbie Brashear, Executive Director of the Harris County Domestic Violence Coordinating Council, who will discuss domestic violence awareness and resources available to those who may need help.
Plus, Thomas Helton, the bassist and tubist for the Boomtown Brass Band, Houston's only traditional jazz group, will tell us all about their efforts to keep this genre's traditions alive through their music.
And we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Libby Casey. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is facing tough questions about Ebola, Iran, and other subjects at a hearing on Capitol Hill. NPR's Michelle Kellerman reports he says Iran won't get relief from sanctions just for reopening the Strait of Hormuz.
Secretary Rubio says before the U.S. lifts its blockade of Iranian ports, the Iranians need to stop firing on commercial vessels and let traffic resume. Democratic Senator Christopher Murphy pressed him on that, pointing out that the strait was open before the U.S. and Israel launched the war against Iran.
The question is, how are we going to get it reopened? Are you going to drive a bargain that is so tough and so hard that the strait remains closed? So how are we going to get it open?
The first thing, that is a predicate to anything else happening. The straits have to be reopened.
And Rubio says U.S. sanctions won't be eased until Iran gets to the next step, negotiating over its nuclear program. Michelle Kellerman, NPR News, the State Department.
States have only a few months before the Trump administration's new federal work requirements for people on Medicaid are set to take effect. NPR's Selena Simmons-Duffin reports.
The Republicans' Big Beautiful Bill Act passed last year used major cuts to Medicaid to fund President Trump's policy priorities. A key way to get the cost of Medicaid down is to limit who can be on the public health plan. Right now, all but a few states allow any low-income adult to enroll. As of January, all of those adults from age 19 to 64 will have to prove that they are working or are exempt from the requirement. The Department of Health and Human Services has now published the details states need to set up the new system in a document that's nearly 400 pages long. Critics of the new rule say it takes a narrow view of medical exemptions, which could lead to many people with complicated health needs becoming uninsured. Selena Simmons-Duffin, NPR News, Washington.
Voters in 6 states are going to the polls today for election primaries. They include California, where more than 60 candidates are seeking to replace outgoing Governor Gavin Newsom in the November election. NPR's Sage Miller has more.
California voters will select which 2 candidates for governor will move on to the general election in a nonpartisan primary. But it's also the first time in decades that Democratic voters haven't had a clear frontrunner. As part of the nationwide redistricting fight sparked by President Trump's push for more GOP seats, California is slated to pick up 5 new Democratic seats. Iowa Republican voters will pick their nominee for governor, but Democrats are hopeful they can flip the office come November. Iowa Democrats will also pick the U.S. Senate candidate who they believe has a shot at winning the competitive seat. Sage Miller, NPR News.
You're listening to NPR News live in Washington.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. Local, state, and federal officials broke ground Monday morning on a billion-dollar project to modernize facilities that produce icebreakers in Galveston and Port Arthur. The large ships are designed to cut through ice-covered waters. The move comes as President Donald Trump prioritizes production of the vessels to boost national security in the Arctic region. Galveston Congressman Randy Weber spoke at the groundbreaking.
Unfortunately, while others were preparing for the future, America was standing still. Well, guys and gals, those days are over. Can we give that a hand?
Officials say the project will create more than 2,400 jobs for the Galveston and Port Arthur communities. More young children in Texas are becoming uninsured. That's according to a new report from the Center for Children and Families at Georgetown University. The research group found that about 11% of Texas children under 6 were uninsured in 2024. That's up from 8% in 2022. Researchers attribute the increase to a specific policy known as Medicaid unwinding. That's when states are required to reestablish Medicaid eligibility for all enrollees, and millions of Texans lost coverage. Taking a check of your weather this hour, a 40% chance of showers and thunderstorms. Otherwise, it's going to be mostly sunny and warm, high near 91, feeling more like 101 this afternoon. Tonight, a 50% chance of rain after 10 p.m., a low of 74. On Wednesday, a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms, otherwise mostly sunny with a high near 86. Right now, it's partly cloudy, 87 degrees on the UH campus. Get more news and information. Go to HoustonPublicMedia.org. I'm Tom Perumian. News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from Strawberry.me, whose career coaches offer professional support to help people get unstuck, gain clarity, and move forward, whether advancing in a current role or choosing a new direction altogether. More at strawberry.me/public.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous.
And since no man is what's that? No
An
man is
island?
an island. I was going to say no man is a nation unto himself.
Or that.
Or that. Katharine Shilcutt is in here with me today, and I hear you're going to be back tomorrow too.
I will. I'm so excited to be here 2 days in a row.
Well, I have one more hour. I can scare you away still, don't you
We'll see.
worry. Talking about scaring things away and getting things wrong. I was all excited. I was going to go see Clue tonight at the Hobby Center. Very excited. It's the stage version based on the famous movie, based on the famous board game. And Jen, who does a lot of our social stuff and our YouTubing stuff, just informed me it's next Tuesday night. And we changed plans and such to go. So now I'm in the doghouse.
But you're being given a gift because there's no greater gift than suddenly not having plans.
Oh my God, Walt, my partner, he always says his favorite plans are canceled. Those are his favorite plans. So I think I just gave him a gift of canceled plans tonight. So if anybody was planning on going to Clue tonight like I was, don't. It's not here for another week. If all the rest of you knew Clue wasn't here till next week, good for you. Anyway, we've got a full show today. We're being a little goofy and a little silly. We had a pretty heavy first hour. We got a pretty heavy second hour. So we take the moments of levity where we can. But we also learned a lot. And in that first hour, we had a representative on the show who has not been with us. Dr. Lalani, state representative, was in here to talk about an op-ed he wrote about Islamophobia, and we got an email about it.
We sure did. Brandon wrote in. He said, "Good afternoon. I've never written in or commented, but I've been listening to your show almost daily for over a year. I very much appreciate you all being there with the news. It makes me sad to see the amount of anti-Muslim rhetoric going around. It reminds me of when I was graduating high school right after 9/11. And even back then, there were people who realized that there is a big difference between Muslim people and Muslim extremists. I have been in a relationship with a Muslim man for over a year now, and though I am not Muslim, I find him to be one of the gentlest and most understanding people I have ever known. Even though we face a lot of outside difficulties, given that he lives in a Muslim country and that we are gay, we grow stronger every day, and I can say very easily that there is no fundamental difference between us. I was raised very fundamentalist Christian, but just to see what he was about, aside from what he was showing me, love, kindness, empathy, I bought a copy of the Quran, the The translations may be a bit off, but honestly, it's a very pleasant read. I think that we just need to educate ourselves about our neighbors, and we will learn to love each other the way God, no matter what you choose to name him or her, would want us to. Thank you, Brandon. That's a really lovely sentiment, Brandon. Thank you for writing in.
You know, there's something in the air today.
Yeah.
We've been talking about this topic. We were talking about it earlier in our show meeting beforehand. You and I have talked about it a bit, and now even this email reminds you the same thing, is that we're talking about, and the concept seems to be, the problems begin when the talking stops.
Absolutely.
When people stop communicating with each other, understanding each other, learning about each other, when we build silos where we no longer communicate across them, then disbeliefs and lies and myths start to grow and fear can grow. But as long as you keep the doors open of communication and talk, you were talking about family members that you communicate with that may not necessarily support the same things you believe in, but it's the conversation. We also talked about it needs to be the willingness to want to communicate across there. And so I hope that that's what we do. We were joking and I said, you know, this is our ministry here. We get to go out.
Yeah.
But in a sense, it's a place where people can come together and share ideas and expressions. And like that email you just read, to understand somebody who you wouldn't think about. You know, you think about the difference in cultures, and then you add in, we're in Pride Month, the fact of being gay. And you have an assumption of how communities react to that, but to find someone that aligns with you and you came up in two different ways, would you ever have imagined that?
And I think that speaks to the fact that we all actually have so much more in common than we realize or think about.
Yeah.
We really do.
And we're very lucky to have all of you that join in the show. And we are also talking about how people from different points across the spectrum of beliefs and political situations come together here and always, for the most part, show respect and courtesy to each other. And we're all here because I think we all want to learn a little bit something more and understand the world around us more completely. And so there, I'm getting off my soapbox
I like
for today.
your soapbox.
But it was just interesting when you read that email. I'm thinking, wow, there's something in the air today. We're all kind of feeling that and walking around that situation. So remember, the problems start when we stop talking. So keep talking with us. Keep sharing. 713-440-8870. You can call or text or email us. You can do that at talk@hellohouston.org. All of that said, we're going to continue with the show today. We're going to be taking a look at domestic violence, and that's going to happen in a little bit. And what we need to know for prevention and awareness and recognizing it and understanding that, once again, there are no silos when it comes to that. It crosses all boundaries, and we should keep that in mind too. We'll be talking about that. And then for a little lightness and a little excitement at the end, we're going to have a jazz band here, the Boomtown Brass Band.
It's just fun to say.
I keep stumbling it. I mean, I stumble a lot of things, but this one's a bit of a tongue twister. Oh, there, I even stumbled that. A tongue twister for me. Last thing real quick I'm going to say. Well, I'm not even going to say. I'll save it for another time because we got to move on with the show. So enough of me chattering. Here we go, into the news. Let's talk headlines.
Texas Children's Hospital here in Houston has to create a detransition clinic for transgender patients by this summer and keep a list of potential gender-affirming care patients, according to new details released Monday by the Texas Attorney General's office. According to a 10-page list of settlement terms requested by the Texas Tribune, Texas Children's has 90 days from the effective date of the settlement to set up the detransition clinic. Also, per the settlement, Texas Children's must create a website for the detransition clinic and a donation page, so those individuals wanting to donate money towards the detransition clinic's efforts can do so. Other requirements include the removal of all hospital press releases from the Texas Children's website related to gender transition services. The clinic will provide multiple services, including access to endocrinology, surgery, primary care, fertility counseling, psychiatry, and psychotherapy. The settlement terms released Monday are the first details about the unusual agreement between the nation's largest pediatric hospital and the Attorney General that would set up the nation's first detransitioning clinic. What are your thoughts on the terms of this deal? Please let us know. Call us or text us at 713-440-8870. Yeah.
Quick thought for point. Most people who receive gender-affirming medical care do not later detransition.
It's a
the exact
vanishingly
percentage is it no.
small So small.
Extremely small. And I think that needs to be in there. The rates range between 1% to 3% of those who have actually had, it's not of all transgender, it's people who have had medical procedure and then take about what a small percentage of it is the people that actually do get transgender care to begin with. This is minuscule we're talking about.
The number of people worldwide who are transgender is less than 1%.
Right.
So again, we are talking about a small percent of a small percent of a small percent. And it just baffles me, again, that we are focusing and fixating on such a small number of individuals. I think it's, of course, reasonable that people should have access to medical care if they want to detransition. That's not that's at question here. It's the fact that, you're forcing a hospital to do something. That's bizarre to me.
Yes. I will give one more point in here is that the vast majority of those, and I'm trying to find the source of this, I'll find that in a second. The vast majority of those who detransition, the report finds, and I'll tell you where the report was in a minute, but is because of extreme pressure, family rejection, social stigma, employment concerns, financial barriers, and safety concerns, rather than because they no longer identify as transgender. I'm going to find what the source of that was in 1 second. But anyway, continue, as we look at that.
I'm also, it concerns me the idea of creating a list of people to track and follow who might someday seek medical care. I feel like medicine works best when patients voluntarily seek treatment rather than when institutions track people. I feel like that is concerning. The registry, I don't love the idea of a registry.
Yeah, that it sends chills. It seems it was published in the LGBT Health Journal, is who did it, and the study was led by Jack L. Turbin, who looked at that in 2021. It was a peer-reviewed study. But anyway, yes, and I think that whenever we mix politics and medicine, that's worrisome to me. I think that the politicians that are involved with medicine should be there to help fund medical practices, and it should be handed over to the experts in these areas to determine how it is administered and where the need is. I would not want a politician to figure out how I should fix the plumbing in my house. I don't want them doing things that aren't their area of expertise. And I think I have heard some interesting things about this, that the idea is to settle the lawsuit. The medical center had to go along with it and are doing that, but that in practice it may be much less than we think. But
we shall see.
Give us your thoughts on this. Do you think it's right? Do you think this is what should happen? Give us a call, 713-440-8870. To also go back to what you were saying a minute ago, though, it's not that I think that care shouldn't be available to those who want it.
Yeah.
That is not what we're arguing here, I don't believe. I think what we're saying is, to force a center to build this thing where money could be going to more need-based situations. Yes, have it available. But we have a call on the line from Beth from Sugar Land. Beth, what are you thinking today? Beth, you there? I hear a little click. Beth?
Hello?
Hello, is this Beth? I'm not sure what's going on on the line.
We can sort of hear you.
I'll let our producers take a look at that and figure out what's happening there with Beth. She was calling in from Sugar Land. If you have an opinion, a thought about this, give us a call, 713-440-8870. Do you have a hard time separating personal beliefs from medical concerns? Do you think that you have certain beliefs and you feel then medicine should support that? Or do you feel like our beliefs can exist and then let medicine decide how they want to go about it? Odd way to place that, but just curious what you think about all of that.
Yeah.
Okay, Beth did drop. I'm sorry, Beth, we missed your call. And if you are still interested in commenting, give us a call back. But we're going to move on to another story right now, and then we'll come back to it, okay? Here's one. Texas can now begin enforcing a new law requiring app stores to verify users' ages and obtain parental consent before minors download apps or make in-app purchases. Going to clear my throat there for a minute. A federal appeals court has allowed the law to take effect while legal challenges continue. Supporters say it gives parents more control over children's online activity, while critics argue it raises privacy and free speech concerns. The law applies to app marketplace operators like Apple and Google and also requires apps to be labeled by age category. A lower court had temporarily blocked the measure, but the Fifth Circuit's ruling means the requirement can move forward for now. So what do you think? 713-440-8870. Do you support this law or not? I'll let you start off on this one too.
I swear the older I get, the more I'm becoming such a curmudgeon about these kinds of things. I don't feel like children should have unsupervised, unrestricted access to smartphones anyway.
Yeah.
Let alone the apps, the things that you can access these days. I shudder to think what I would have seen as a young child. I'm so glad that I didn't have a smartphone as a child. Give your child a jitterbug. Give them a dumb phone.
Yes.
There's so many ways to still keep in touch with your child, still keep track of them, have them, have an open line of communication that is not unfettered access to the internet.
This is going to be a very off-color story, but I'm going to tell it anyway. When I was a kid, I remember if we found a Playboy.
Oh, God, hidden somewhere.
And it was out in the woods underneath a crate under some rocks, and we had to show our other friends where it was hidden.
You had to work for that.
Yeah. And then I look at what is readily available, even with the anti-porn on social media laws that we have in the state that blocks websites, the things you can still see. Mm-hmm. I don't know how that affects a child today. I don't know the impact seeing those kind of images. So Andy Warhol once said that he believed that adults should not learn or be told the story of the birds and the bees until they're at least 40 years old. Because he said, then just think at 40 how much more exciting the rest of your life would be. But right now, it's all worn out by the time we get to 40. And I think about that in the joking sense, but if you're exposed to that much that early, what continues to excite as we move on in age? How much more extreme does everything become? And I know that's probably not psychologically accurate in what I'm saying, but the impact of exposure to such things that are maybe beyond the point where we can fully understand them.
Sure.
So saying that, I of course believe in First Amendment rights. I believe in freedom of speech. I believe in a lack of censorship. But I also believe in that there are age limits for it. And okay, I don't necessarily know that I believe in age limits, but it's what we've agreed upon to use. I believe in maturity levels. I know 16-year-olds or new 16-year-olds that would be much more advanced than maybe a 24-year-old I know when it comes to social interactions and understanding the world. So I think each person is an individual and separate and different.
Sure.
But we need some guidelines.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's a bad... Now, do I know everything that's in this? Do I know all the ins and outs of this bill? Do I know how maybe it's being done in some ways? I don't. In concept, I'm okay with it.
Yeah. And think about there's so many more things besides just porn that can be tremendously detrimental to developing brains. You think about the way that social media is set up to reward constant scrolling and consumption. It ruins your dopamine receptors, for God's sake.
The addiction behaviors.
Yes, absolutely.
It's bothersome, and I don't understand exactly. And please, if you do know, call and share with us, because I want to understand those that are against this and feel that it's a violation of free speech. Let me hear from you. I want to more deeply understand this, because on the surface, I'm seeing that they're not outlawing these apps; they are limiting. Even with when we mentioned the porn regulations that are out there, you can age verify to have access to these things if that's what you want. So it's different to me, I think, than censorship. But help me understand if I'm wrong,
We do have someone in the chat who points out something interesting, says the problem with these types of laws is that they're not meant to protect children. They are meant to censor adults. I don't want to have to give my information to gain access to things when these companies use our data and end up leaking it.
And that's a good point, because we just saw with Carnival Cruise, they had that data breach that we were talking about. Was that just yesterday? And, so many Texans, I don't know, was it 800,000? Something like that. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Their information was out. Right. And so if you're giving over your personal information to these companies, and in some ways I feel safer with brick and mortar. I feel like there's people there. I don't know who runs all the stuff that's online and where it goes and what countries it's going to and all of that. So I understand that part of it. But there are age restrictions on things. We're okay with it in movies. We don't let you see any age movie. There are regulations and guidelines around it. So, okay, we're going to try one more time and get Beth back on the line at 713-440-8870. Beth, what's on your mind?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Okay, finally. So listen, I called immediately when I heard about this settlement of Texas Children's Hospital being forced to set up a detransition clinic.
Yes.
And look, I have thoughts. This is un-American. It's stupid. It's evil. It's crazy. First of all, people who seek out and obtain gender-affirming care in the first place have the lowest regret rate of anything in the broad category of elective coverage. The very few, the tiny minority, perhaps 1% of people who say, you know what, this actually isn't for me. The return trip is the same as long as they haven't had any surgeries. It's basically the same care, just going the other direction. You don't need a special clinic just for detransition. It would be the same work. It would be the same people doing the same thing in the other direction. So, what evil person put this together? And oh yeah, by the way, if it makes any difference, I'm speaking from personal experience.
Oh, Beth, that change of voice threw me there at the end. Yes. So when you hear about these things, and you've expressed this very clearly, that it's bothersome to you, if in fact you had wanted to go to detransition, if you had in fact transitioned, would your medical provider supply you with the exact same care and concern, or would there be a stigma in that direction?
I believe absolutely that my existing medical providers would 100% treat me in the same caring, concerned manner. They would provide the same standards of care, the same bedside manner. Everything would be the same. It would all be about what I am trying to achieve, whether I want to become completely masculine or whether I want to become completely feminine or indeed anywhere in between.
So then I guess what they should have done was a bill that gave robust gender care, and therefore, no matter which direction one person was going, they would have the best healthy medical advice and care available.
Well, that would be sensible. That would be the smart American thing to do. The one that would be consistent with everything that, like, good red-blooded Americans want for their country.
Beth, thank you very much for calling in and sharing with us, and thank you for working around our little phone problems there. We appreciate it.
This is an important issue. I'm happy to do what it takes to work around it.
Yes.
And thank you for having me. I've been really pleased to call in.
Thank you, Beth. And I think Beth brings up a really interesting point that I hadn't thought of in all of this. If there was real care about gender care and gender reassignment and transitioning and vice versa, because it's the same medical issues involved here, to fund a detransition center instead of just funding strong medical care for transgender individuals, regardless of what the issues are that they face, that may be a much better use of a clinic that's being involved, because then holistically we can treat the individual, whichever issues they're facing in this. And I'm happy Beth mentioned it, because I wouldn't have thought of it that way.
Being very sensible here.
Yeah. There we go. Sensibility. But with sensibility comes responsibility, and we're responsible to the clock of the show, which means we need to move on. So coming up, Executive Director of the Harris County Domestic Violence Coordinating Council will be here with us to talk with us about domestic violence awareness, prevention, and resources available. That's coming up next, right here on Hello Houston.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
It's coming up today at 3 o'clock.
You know, there'll be potentially a reckoning for SpaceX and for Elon Musk. It's going to have quarterly earnings calls with investors, and it's going to need to show progress towards these very lofty goals that people have already invested in. And if the company and Elon Musk doesn't show that progress, investors may start to get antsy.
I'm Michael Barbaro. That's Today on the Daily from the New York Times.
Listen to The Daily tonight at 7.
PBS Drama on HPM Plus.
The dramas you can't stop watching. Now in one place. Stream on demand. Catch up on past seasons with Passport. Search HPM Plus on your smart and connected TVs.
HPM Plus. Support comes from UT Health Houston, Houston's health university, where education, research, and patient care come together to help advance health and improve lives in Houston and beyond. More at houstonshealthuniversity.com. Support comes from Metro. World Cup planning includes transit improvements intended to serve Houston after the final match. Metro provides bus, rail, and paratransit service and continues mobility enhancements across the region. More at ridemetro.org/Metro Now.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and guest host Katharine Shilcutt.
The tragic deaths of Houston restaurateur T. Mitchell and her 2 children have renewed conversations about domestic violence and family violence in our community, an issue that affects women and children from all walks of life. Joining us now is Barbie Brashear, Executive Director of the Harris County Domestic Violence Coordinating Council, to discuss domestic violence awareness, prevention, and resources available to those who may need help. Barbie, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And if you would like to join the conversation, remember to call or text us at 713-440-8870.
We were talking right as you came into the studio, too, that we feel like, it's a serious subject, but also it can be uplifting because you're providing help to people in need. And that's the part we should be celebrating in all of this.
Absolutely. And thank you for that perspective.
Yeah.
Less than 10% of those that are suffering from the intimate partner violence, domestic violence, family violence will actually reach out to formal services for help.
That's a disheartening number at first glance.
It is. It is.
Before we get anywhere into the conversation, a phone number people can reach out to if any of this rings true for them.
So the best number is the National Domestic Violence Hotline. It's answered 24/7, 7 days a week, all the time, 1-800-799-SAFE, SAFE.
And it's a real person answering the phone.
It is, yes.
What does SAFE turn into in numbers? Do you know offhand? We'll look it up. Okay.
Thank you.
We can look it up, yes.
I have a phone number that has a name to it, and the problem is everyone's like, well, we don't have letters on our phone anymore.
You're right.
We're
I got to memorize it a different way.
Yes. I think that also the start of this conversation, even what Katharine just read, is that the family that sparked this conversation for us to want to put it in the spotlight today, they weren't who you would traditionally think is in domestic abusive situations. And I think that's where we need to start this conversation, is there is no profile of the family that that experiences this.
Absolutely. 1 out of every 3 women will be involved in a violent relationship in her lifetime. And this starts early. This starts when kiddos start developing relationships with one another.
Yep.
So middle school, high school, 1 in 8 high school students is at risk for a violent relationship before they graduate. So we're talking, you're absolutely spot on. We're talking about this impacting everyone, all of us.
Yeah.
I do want to go back. I've got your number now. It's 1-800-799-7233.
Thank you.
Or 799-SAFE, just so people know as we talk about this, because I know this topic can be triggering for a lot of people. Oftentimes, part of the problem is, I believe, those that are in these abusive relationships don't know where they can go, don't say anything to anyone. As an observer, first of all, what are the things to notice if maybe someone you know is in this situation, and how to broach it to someone? Because in a lot of ways, it's horribly embarrassing to the person who is the victim, which it shouldn't be because they are a victim. But then they feel like even if confronted, they're not going to share. I know I put a whole lot into that one question.
No, it's like, you don't even need me. You just said it. I mean, what you're saying is, how do we destigmatize, and how do we create conversations with one another as human beings that allow us to talk real time about what's happening without judgment, without fear. I often say that it's about supporting, validating, and educating. Those are the 3 things that we can do. As service providers in this profession, we can do that, but as individuals working with one another and talking with one another. the first person I'm going to go to when I have a problem is who? Probably a family member or a really dear friend. And if my dear friend or family member has information that they can share with me, not blame me for this, support me and validate me, saying, wow, it's really brave of you to come forward and say this to me. I'm concerned for your safety. Let's talk about ways that you can be safer. Mm-hmm. It changes everything, right? When we can be in those relationships with one another and have real talk.
But before you even get to that point, I guess the beginning of my question, I threw a whole lot on you at
the
once.
red flags.
Right. What should I be noticing about the people around me to give me some insight to say, wait, Sally over there may need help, or Billy?
Yeah, it's a great question. We do call those the red flags, but it's noticing when there is a imbalance of power in a relationship. And by noticing that, what I think about and what I look for is somebody being controlled, what they're saying, what they're doing, where they can go, having access to their money, being put down and belittled. Imagine if somebody's being put down and belittled in public. What's going on behind the closed door?
How much worse is it?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And when we talk about this, we're not just talking about physical violence.
Correct.
Right.
And in fact, what we're talking about as being the number one reason that keeps people in these relationships is all the power and control tactics that happen outside of physical violence.
Yep.
Using children to control them. If you leave me or if you tell anybody, I'll call CPS or I'll get custody of the children in court. Controlling all the finances in the relationship, not allowing somebody to have access to bank accounts or bank cards or even knowing how much money is in your account. Put downs, name calling, intimidation. Those are really powerful tactics that keep somebody right there.
Well, and to segue off of that, I always hear people say something like, well, why didn't you just leave? But it's so much more complicated than that. And it speaks to all the things that you just said. There are so many levers of control that make it difficult for someone to just walk away.
Absolutely. And when you factor in leaving as the most dangerous time for a survivor, then staying becomes the alternative, right?
Yes.
And, we facilitate at the Coordinating Council, we facilitate an adult violent death review team where we look at the violent deaths that have happened as a result of intimate partner violence and look for missed opportunities. And probably close to 85-90% of those cases, the person that was being abused had initiated a leave, a separation. So it's very, and what we also learn is that often there's letting that person know I'm going to leave, right? So one of the biggest safety factors is if you're in this relationship and you're thinking of leaving, you don't tell this person that.
Right.
That becomes an imperative safety tool.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm going to go back again to that first rambling question of mine. So I've seen these flags in this person.
Yes.
Bobby or Sally or whatever I'm calling them now. How do I approach? What do I say?
Great question. I think there are two approaches. And I think it depends on the kind of relationship you have with this person. If it's a stranger, I've gone up to a stranger in a grocery store and said, look, I'm really concerned about your safety. Is there something that you'd like to talk to me about? I know I'm a stranger, but I'm here and there's help available if you want it, right? And that's just a very simple segue and gives that person choice about whether or not to take that help. If it's a close person, a friend, I'm saying to you, look, I'm really concerned about what I'm seeing. This is what I'm seeing in your relationship. How does this make you feel?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you never liked my partner. You didn't like the choice I made. I'm tired of you interfering. We have our life, our family. We're trying.
The defensiveness.
Yep.
How do you counter that?
Yeah.
Or do you step back?
I respect that. And I say, look, you're right. I'm not in your relationship, but I am your friend and I care about you. Whatever decision you make is your decision, but I want you to know that I am concerned for you. I worry about your safety. That's me not judging you. That's me saying I'm here when you're ready.
And that's so important, those intercessions, those interventions, because it's so common that violence or abuse is normalized, depending upon the family systems that you came from too, right? Like you may not even recognize the way that an external party recognizes this.
Oh, 100%. Now I'm going to just go real personal, if that's okay.
Please.
I grew up in a home where there was violence. My father was abusive to my mom. I didn't realize until an adult that my grandfather was abusive to my grandmother. And we didn't call it that.
Right.
They're just fighting. That's just what happens. And it wasn't until I got education and information that I realized this is not okay. This is harmful in so many ways. But we do normalize, right?
Absolutely. Especially in older generations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you see that people don't even have the language or the tools to talk about what's going on either.
100%. 100%. My mom still does not identify herself as a woman who was battered, right?
Yeah.
There's stigma to that, and there's judgment, and that means something's wrong with her. Nothing was wrong with her.
They internalize it, though.
Yeah.
So then let's flip this then. I was thinking a lot about how do we help someone on the inside. Flip it now. Somebody on the inside who doesn't want to give up their self-respect. In some ways, the image that they have projected out to you, though, how can they start the conversation with someone and hold on to their self-respect that they fear they're going to lose by going to a friend and saying, you know, that guy that I'm with or that woman I'm with that you always thought was terrible, they are?
Yeah.
What can they say? What's the best way to start to seek help?
I think you just said it. If people can get vulnerable enough to say what you just said, look, I'm in this relationship and it makes me feel awful and I don't know what to do about it. And I don't know who to talk to about it. What do you think? Right? That level of allowing yourself to be vulnerable. And we're real protective of that as humans, right? That's not a space we're comfortable in. I have a colleague who says it's really important to get comfortable being uncomfortable, right?
It's true.
Yeah. And I think the other thing I'd add to this conversation is that those that are using violence in the relationship can have friends talk to them about that as well.
Yes.
Look, I'm noticing that you're hurting this person you love. You've told me you love this person and I see you hurting this person. This is what I see happening. Do you want to talk about that? Do you want to think about how to do something different? Because there's help for you, right? We don't have that conversation either.
Right. I never thought about it from that angle. I want to remind everyone we're speaking with Barbie Brashear, who's the Executive Director of the Harris County Domestic Violence Coordinating Council. If you'd like to ask a question or have a comment, 713-440-8870. I also want to mention the domestic abuse hotline, which is 800-799-SAFE, which is SAFE is 7233. The idea, the thought that the abuser is unrehabable. That's a terrible way to put it. But I think we are quick to paint a villain.
We are.
As opposed to thinking, is there a route for healing? Should you stay with someone with the belief that there is a possibility of healing?
Yeah. I can't do this work without believing there's a route for healing for everyone.
Okay.
I do believe that people who use violence have learned to do that. They don't have coping skills. They don't have conversational skills. They don't have communication. Like they've grown up in a home and seen this and experienced this and think, again, going back to that word of normalize it as this is how I'm supposed to be in relationships.
There's no emotional regulation. That's just
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. And we've learned so much about how to help people. We've learned so much about our brains. Like I think of all of the brain health science that we've learned over the past 20 years. It's really advancing our field.
Yes.
And there are lots of different alternatives to help folks that are using violence learn to do something different and train their brain differently.
Something you mentioned earlier about not necessarily always recognizing interpersonal violence or patterns like that. I'd like to kind of extend that question out. What do people misunderstand broadly about domestic abuse, domestic violence that you wish they understood?
I think it's some of the things we've already touched on. One is that it only happens to a certain kind of person, right? It is not happening in a silo to one geography or one socioeconomic status or one
even to one gender.
Yeah,
right?
even to
Men
one
and
gender.
women both
Yes.
experience it.
That's a point we've got about a minute left, but I want to make sure that we point
Yes.
out, we often talk about women being victimized by men, but there can be women being victimized by women, men being victimized by men, women victimizing men.
Yes.
It goes across the
It
board.
does. Yeah. It does. And I'll say going along with kind of piggybacking on a little bit of the conversation before, in our GLBTQ communities, where there's a lot of stigma and fear already, for folks to talk about this intimate partner violence in those relationships is another layer of complexity, right? And so to me, we underestimate the power of personal relationships. And when we can engage in strong, meaningful relationships with one another, we're able to transfer information in a way that strangers can't, right?
Correct me if I'm wrong here. You're the expert. But when we're talking about in-family dynamics, if you feel like you are being abused and you say something to someone in your close circle and they're like, oh, would you just stop that? Blah, blah. If you feel it, it's real. And if someone isn't supporting it, find someone who can hear you out.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
Beautiful.
All right. Well, since she said it was beautiful, I think I should end there. End on a high note of me sounding smart. It's a very serious issue, and I don't mean to make light of it. You mentioned it happening in your home. I saw it in my home growing up. I think a lot of people have, and it's kind of like we don't talk about it because of the stigma of it, but you would talk about any other situation that's happening. There are certain things we just couch this way, and we shouldn't. We should feel safe enough and secure in knowing those who are victimized are not to blame.
Absolutely.
There you go. Did you have any last comment?
I'll just say this real quick. I think of it like what we've learned from health. We learned from breast health and colon health that early detection can prevent and save lives. This is the same thing. And we had to get comfortable with talking about breast cancer, and we had to get comfortable with talking about colon cancer. This is the same thing.
Yep.
Let's learn from that.
Thank you. Barbie Brashear is the Executive Director of Harris County Domestic Violence Coordinating Council. Barbie, come back sometime when we have even more time. And we can talk deeper and take calls and such.
Sure.
Okay, coming up, we've still got one more segment on the show, and this time we're changing it up. We're going to Houston's only traditional jazz group. A little uplifting for the end of the show on this Tuesday. This is Hello Houston. Stay with us.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross-country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
There's a new pilot program in Utah. Artificial intelligence can now renew some prescriptions with nary a doctor in sight. What's that oath? First, do no harm?
We want to be able to preserve the physician-patient relationship. I think that's the thing we're most worried about.
I'm Kai Rizdal, paging Dr. AI. Stat. Next time on Marketplace.
You can catch it later today at 6:30.
Can't get enough PBS programming? PBS Passport is an added member benefit that offers exclusive streaming access to many of your favorite programs on the PBS app. Whether you're an NPR listener, a PBS watcher, or both, your ongoing donations of at least $5 per month qualify for PBS Passport. Make your gift now to start watching at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from CertaPro Painters, offering residential and commercial painting services, from color consultations to full project management. Estimates and more at CertaPro.com.
Support comes from the Grand 1894 Opera House presenting Beware of Short Texans, starring Jaston Williams of Greater Tuna. The performance includes stories and characters drawn from Texas life and theater. July 11th, tickets at thegrand.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and guest host Katharine Shilcutt.
If you think you need to go to New Orleans to hear some traditional jazz, think again. Boomtown Brass Band is a performing ensemble that serves as the only traditional jazz group in Houston. Formed in 2015, the band is steeped in the traditions of the authentic hot jazz from the 1920s, ensuring that the roots of this celebrated genre are kept alive and well here in the Bayou City for all to enjoy. To tell us more about Boomtown Brass Band, please welcome its bassist and tubist, Thomas Helton, who also founded the group. Thomas, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you, Catherine. Appreciate it.
Okay, I have a question just to start things off.
Absolutely.
Hot jazz. I just love saying that. But for those that are not completely immersed in the music world or the jazz world, the many subgenres thereof, which there are, tell us about hot jazz.
I'm not sure exactly where the term came from, but it kind of refers to for the jazz era from like the very beginning up until like in the early 30s, maybe the late 20s. So and it's mainly kind of about the characteristic of the music, because the music was really designed for dance. That's really what it was, playing in the clubs and whatnot in New York and St. Louis and New York and Kansas City and Chicago. So these bands people didn't want to, they didn't want like, boring old background music. They wanted to dance and have fun, kind of like currently,
Yeah.
So this was the music of that time, though. So
I find it hard to believe, and help me if I'm wrong here, and in the introduction, the only traditional jazz group in Houston. How are we defining that?
Well, okay, I'll go ahead and make it a little bit. I'll kind of cookie, because by no means, of course, there are other musicians that are doing this genre. I want to just be very clear. We're the only kind of committed to it. Like, this is what this band do. We don't do
all you do.
This is what this ensemble plays, and we are really committed to the music pre-1930. Like, we don't do anything Glenn Miller, big band, anything like that. It's got to be
No Count Basie.
No. That's a little too modern for us. So.
But you have applied the style of what you do
We have a
to
tendency,
maybe more popular or current.
Right. The style pretty much stays the same, but we have dabbled in some modern material, but still keeping the style the same.
So what is, musically speaking, the style of that period that you have to retain to be able to apply to other areas?
Some of the characteristics of, I play the tuba in that ensemble, and so the beat and the whatnot of that genre of music it's called like a two-beat thing. So it's not like when jazz started to become a thing and big band started becoming a thing. The style started to become a little bit more stylized and smoother. With the bass, they started switching to bass. The bass would play more of a 4-beat to the thing, whereas this is a little more. I'm not exactly sure how to put it, but it's a 2-beat feel. It almost sounds a little bit like marching music. Because if you think about it, we're coming out of the Civil War,
right?
So the instrumentation of most marching bands, Sousa marches and whatnot, are brass instruments. So those were the instruments that were sort of available after the war and whatnot. So that. It only made sense that that would be the instrumentation of what eventually became jazz, because that was the instruments that are around.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm curious. When people think of traditional jazz, like we mentioned in the intro, they think of like New Orleans.
Right.
So can you tell us a little bit about what role Houston has played in the history of jazz?
Or are you it?
Yeah, are you it?
Well,
because that's also very cool.
Well, that's really interesting to say that, because my banjo player is actually doing a project where he is trying to resurrect and present the music of you got to say his name properly, Thomas. Let me think of it for a minute, because it's a funny name, but he's a piano player that. I'll think of his name in a second. He's from Houston, and he was famous in the 1920s. And even though guys like Glenn Miller and some of the big names back in that time wanted to take him out of Houston, he refused to leave. But he also refused to record. So he's trying to recreate that genre of music. As soon as I can think of the guy's name, Peck Kelly, and he's from Houston. He's a piano player, never recorded until like the early 80s, and then he did one record, and it was really just for archiving, because he didn't want people stealing all his music. So as far as the history of Houston, jazz in Houston, I can't give you a detailed timeline, because like there's so little documentation about anything pre-60s and whatnot. It's funny that we're talking about this, because I'm actually going to a meeting right after this with Dr. Woody Witt to possibly do a project where we tell the story of jazz in Houston. So
And I would think what you're talking about here reminds me of how much is lost or never captured.
Never documented,
and, it's just, it's crazy.
Yeah. I'm actually in the middle of a project at my house. It started during the pandemic where I would do concerts online. And in the beginning, it was just a chance for us to kind of stay connected. But now it's become an archival thing. So now I'm having all these jazz groups come through my house and do an online concert, and I'm archiving it onto a hard drive just for archiving's sake, so that we don't have this problem moving forward. So
for ethnomusicologists work, you're doing Alan Lomax work.
I'm really just a bass player that owns a tuba.
So folks want to hear you. Where
Absolutely.
do they go?
The most consistent place to come hear us is at Market Bar in downtown. It's in the Phoenicia Market. Yeah. We're there the last Sunday of the month. We've been at Phoenicia for a decade now. They've been so nice to host us for this long. So if you want to come, it's a Sunday brunch. It's family friendly. There's no cover charge. The food is awesome. And you will have an amazing time because Boomtown's amazing.
And when I've seen y'all, people dance.
That's what the music's for.
Which I just love, because that's not always the case, but people actually dance when they hear y'all.
Exactly. It was one of the funniest things about starting this band is that I didn't realize that it was going to touch everyone. Like, I'm a modern jazz guy in general, but when we started playing this band, everyone liked it. Kids liked it. Older folks liked it. Everyone just liked it. I'm like, why are these people so happy? I don't understand. I've been playing music for 30 years, but suddenly everyone is into it. And so this is what we do now. So.
When you talk about modern jazz,
right?
The love you have for the two, how do they merge?
I can't think of a style or a genre of music I don't like, and I don't have a finger in some capacity. So I don't know if I mean, other than like I really believe in order to know where you're heading, you need to know what happened in the past. And I think that's kind of just an extension of that. I'm a real big believer in just learning about history and understanding the progress and whatnot, so that I can see which way I'm going. Because it's just, we're not in a bubble here. We didn't create this stuff. We're on the backs of heroes and
on the shoulders of giants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I was talking to a performer who said to me once, well-known recording artist, who said what bothers her the most is categorization in stores or thing. She's like, music is music.
Yes.
If I sing it this way or sing it that way, why should my records move?
Exactly. Exactly.
And so it's always interesting to me. There are definitely styles. There are
Sure.
definitely beats that signify something. There are styles of how they do music. But it is very limiting. And that once we start, once again, back in the silos we've been talking about all day, that we have to just be open across.
Yeah, people need to put them in categories to feel comfortable, and I'm not a big fan myself. So I'm a musician. That's it. And if you look at my body of work, it goes all over. So.
I was noticing, you've been a jazz bassist since 1990. You repair basses during the day.
Right.
You have this successful brass band. Your life is so steeped in music. Did you ever anticipate this for yourself? Do you wake up some days and think, wow, I'm so lucky?
I have lunch with my mom every week, and I always say, one of these days I'm going to grow up and get a real job. I promise.
Don't do it.
It's been 36 years. I think it's time.
Yeah, highly overrated, those real jobs. I'm curious, school, music education, where did you first get the bug?
My father was an amateur musician. I'm named after a fairly famous musician who was his best friend, Gene Thomas. So it was kind of around when I was coming up. But I only have a little bit of an education. I went to San Jacinto College in Pasadena in the early 90s just for a couple of years. And then once I started gigging, this is all I've been doing.
That's your education is gigging.
Well, it's funny you would say that. That's the one thing that I always tell students. It's like, going to jazz universities and whatnot. I'm not saying it's not a good thing, but you're going to learn way more on the bandstand than you're ever going to learn in a classroom.
Absolutely.
And my mentor, Larry Slazak from Houston, or no, he's not from Houston. That was my, that's how I learned how to be where I'm at today. So
it's fun. It's great music. You guys put on a great show.
Thank you.
The showmanship too is part of it all. It's not just playing the music. It's feeling it in the space.
It's energy, yeah.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about Boomtown, that I always, it's not even a joke anymore. These are my friends. I love these people. Like, it's not a job for me. It is what I love to do, and these are the people I love to do it with. So wherever we're going to be, whether it's the Bayou Gardens or the MFA where you have a gig coming up, at the MAH coming up, and we're looking for a home at Dan Electro's, whatever we're looking.
Online, quickly, where can people find out a schedule or what you're doing?
BoomtownHTX.com.
BoomtownHTX.com. Thomas Helton, thank you very much for being here with us today. He's the bassist and tubist with Boomtown Brass. And Thank you.
Thank you, Ernie. Thank you.
Brings us
Catherine.
to the end of the
Appreciate
show.
y'all.
So much.
Appreciate
Yeah.
Can you
y'all
believe
so
that?
much.
We
It
made
went
it
so
through.
fast.
Okay, we want to thank you for watching and listening to Hello Houston. Catherine, you're going to be back tomorrow?
I'll see y'all tomorrow.
Good, we didn't scare you away. She'll be back tomorrow for more conversation, including an update on the state school voucher program. What's actually happening there? We're going to find out right here on Hello Houston tomorrow. This is News 88.7.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menhivog, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from Metro. World Cup planning includes transit improvements intended to serve Houston after the final match.